Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
If you're struggling to lose weight, you've probably heard about weight loss medications like Wegovy or Zepbound, and you might be wondering if they're right for you. Meet PlushCare, a leading telehealth provider with doctors who are there for you day and night to partner with you in your weight loss journey. If you qualify, they can safely prescribe you medication from the comfort of your own home. To get started, visit plushcare.com/weightloss. That's plushcare.com/weightloss. plushcare.com/weightloss.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. All right. Hi, everyone. We have a guest here today. So, Dr. Gatta, could you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey into dentistry and where you are now.
Sure thing. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I grew up in Newport, Rhode Island, and then migrated south to dental school at Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was on a Navy scholarship, so I got to travel with them for 8 years, did a GPR in San Diego, did a PROS residency at Walter Reed in DC, and eventually came back to South Florida where I fell in love with the weather and currently practice in Boca Raton.
Okay, so the Florida weather kept you to stay south. I get it.
Absolutely.
So I know that you're very passionate about kind of how the mouth is connected to the rest of the body and overall health and how we can best take care of our mouths and the best products to be using and everything. So starting off, what are some of the ways that you think are just so cool how the mouth can affect our systemic health?
So great point. And I think some of the most commonly viewed mechanisms of action are looking at inflammation. When you chronically have inflamed gums, puffy gums, gingivitis, eventually leading to periodontitis, it's just a portal and pathway for bacteria and organisms to get in the bloodstream and affect varying parts of the body. You look at metabolic syndrome, you look at cardiovascular health. These are conditions that potentially have a link to portals in the mouth with your periodontal health. Yeah,
I know. It's so often I hear people saying, oh, my gums have always bled. I've always had bleeding gums, or my gums are always sensitive. And it makes me sad. I'm like, no, it's not supposed to be like that. And I heard someone else compare it. If you have a cut on your arm and that's bleeding, you're concerned about it. But when your gums are bleeding, people don't think anything of it.
You make a great point. I think there's also just an emerging body of science looking at the microbiome, whether it's the gut microbiome, the oral microbiome, and just looking at how in the past we used to just bombard the body with antibiotics and alcohol to kill everything. And yes, if you have an acute infection, yes, you need antibiotics. But if there's a way to not do that, I think that would really help not upset the balance in your gastrointestinal tract, just really understanding and keeping the bacteria in balance and the harmony. Same with the mouth here. When you look at opportunities where strep mutans and other bacteria maybe get out of balance and lead to a state of demineralization of the enamel, or when P. gingivalis or whichever other anaerobe in the periodontal health is leading to that breakdown of that support, you look at the balance being dysregulated and leading to negative consequences.
Do you do anything specifically with your patients to help with their gut microbiome, or do you kind of go for referring if you feel like their oral health is looking okay?
I don't. So I'm a prosthodontist here in South Florida.
Yeah.
I treat many old people, but we absolutely have the conversation that if something is irregular in the mouth, we talk about nutrition. And a lot of people are kind of surprised by, doc, why are you harping on what I'm eating or what I'm drinking? It's like, well, Mrs. Smith, it's all related, and how much sugar and acid you're consuming and why you have 10 areas of decay today. It has an absolute link to the rest of the health and your body here. And if you're an overweight person, there could be some evidence of metabolic syndrome going on. And there's a big link between keeping the mouth healthy and keeping the rest of the body healthy. And, I can't make a guarantee, but if you've got someone that has no decay, no periodontal disease, just a wonderful intact dentition, the rest of their body in a lot of cases is probably good as well. And a lot of this goes back to the work of Dr. Weston Price back in the 1930s, looking at his seminal work on nutrition and the physical appearance of the native populations in certain parts of the world compared to those populations that were introduced to the quote unquote Western diet, these communities that were near the port, near where all the ships were coming in, and they were starting to trade with the Westerners, getting access to the refined carbohydrates, the fermentable sugars, and unfortunately their dentition took a toll in those areas.
Mm-hmm. And something a lot of people seem to be doing to try to take control of their oral health, which we love that, but is oil pulling is very trendy these days. I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's something that we definitely see. South Florida is a very health conscious part of the country. And for folks that, don't have much experience in that realm. So essentially, when you look at the hydrophobicity and the lipid solubility of the coconut oil or whichever product you're using, that solubility is similar to the membrane solubility of the bacteria in your mouth. And the thought process is that, well, if you're mixing the same like materials after swishing for several minutes, you can mix and adhere and literally pull some of the bacteria into the solution you're mixing because they have a similar hydrophobicity or lipid solubility. And then expectorate, definitely don't swallow that mixture, but spit out that debris and try and rid your body of the of pathogens that way. It's not something that I would say I talk or harp on tremendously amount with my patients, but if someone brings it up, I'll absolutely talk to them about it. And some of the mouthwashes we have here at Risewell are similar for that as well. But it is a strategy that some people employ to try to improve their overall oral health.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about Risewell and your products and just in general oral care products, what are you looking for ingredients specifically when it comes to a toothpaste or when it comes to a mouthwash that you think makes it most effective?
So a lot of the things in our search of the company are looking for products to be as all natural as possible. We want to avoid artificial things. We want to make sure we're certified clean by the Environmental Working Group. So they're one of the bodies, international governing bodies that look at molecules and composition of products out there. And we want to be clean for that body of international organization there. And also molecules and ingredients that are effective. I applaud our predecessors and people that came before us, or a lot of big name brands out there that took fluoride out of their ingredients and they took other things out. And again, I agree, we want to take out detergents. We want to take out ingredients that are just harmful and you really don't need in a highly absorbent place like the mouth. And I agree, and I think a lot of people do as well, that there's a ton of body of research behind fluoride. We know it works, but at our company, we've taken the stance that hydroxyapatite, a little bit safer profile with none of the potential deleterious consequences that fluoride has. And also, I was kind of tired of arguing with people. Once you get out into the private practice, some of this stuff is like religion, and regardless of how much evidence you throw at people, they don't want to hear it. Like, it's very, very emotional. And if you're not speaking their language, sometimes it just doesn't resonate with them. And so, we were kind of tired of arguing with people, and we were looking to go in a different direction. And I think the body of research really backs up and supports the ability of hydroxyapatite to remineralize incipient lesions and also be extremely helpful with sensitivity.
For anyone listening that doesn't have the kind of dental chemical background, can you just explain how you would tell the patient what's the difference between hydroxyapatite and fluoride in terms of what they do or how they function?
Sure thing. So fluoride's mechanism of action is making the enamel more resistant to the acid attack that the bacteria produce when they ferment the sugars. And so if you kind of refer back to the Stevens curve, looking at the pH solubility of when decay occurs, once the pH drops below 5.5, that's theoretically of when the decay or demineralization process starts to occur. And so we want to use ingredients that kind of keeps the pH at a neutral or slightly basic area to try and prevent you from dipping down into that zone. And that's what is helpful with our mouthwash. So again, fluoride is helpful to make it so that the pH has to get even lower. So that's how it helps prevent decay. Hydroxyapatite, it's calcium phosphate. It's naturally occurring. It's biocompatible, biomimetic, non-toxic, non-inflammatory, has a wonderful list of properties. And once we discovered that it's been used in the Asian markets for decades, we were kind of curious as to why it did not have much market penetration here in the US. And it has a wonderful safety profile. And essentially, it plugs in or fills the little chips in the armor of your enamel. So if you've got incipient demineralization spots, there's an affinity for the hydroxyapatite to create a biomimetic shield over those areas and really fill in the little chips in the armor. So hydroxyapatite kind of filling in chips in the armor, fluoride making the enamel more resistant to the acid. The pH has to be lower to kind of start the demineralization process.
Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense and makes it very clear and concise. So I think everyone's on the same page now. So circling back to Risewell specifically, what inspires you to create the line of products?
So one of the brainchilds of Risewell was actually my sister and brother-in-law. So the three of us started the company several years ago, and my sister's been very open about some of the fertility challenges she's had. And at the time, they were looking to start a family and have their first child, and she had a condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which made conceiving a little more challenging. So they had to go through the IVF process. Now, not an easy process, not a cheap process. And their physician's like, guys, you're making a huge investment. You need to live a more healthy, clean lifestyle. And not that they were overtly unhealthy, but they weren't super cognizant of what they were eating or putting in their bodies. So they're like, you know what, they went and trashed their whole kitchen cupboard and threw out all the processed foods and were really committed to living a more clean, healthy lifestyle. And in addition to what you put in your body for food and energy, they were looking at their beauty products, their cosmetic products, their oral hygiene products. And that's when we kind of teamed up because I had just gotten out of the Navy. I was back down here in South Florida. A lot of my patients had a health conscious slant to them as well. And some of the folks we were working with, we had suggested xylitol and hydroxyapatite and looking to live a more healthy, clean lifestyle. And it really fit with what we were trying to do in the patient population and keeping people healthy. And so a lot of that goes back to them wanting to start a family and introduce products that people didn't have to worry about what kind of detergents or unnecessary fillers or sodium lauryl sulfates or just a lot of the ingredients that the big box companies use.
So what was that process like of starting from ground zero, like coming up with what are we going to put in these products, testing them? How did all that go?
So I was very skeptical at first myself because, some of this stuff is like religion. So questioning fluoride, it was kind of like earth shattering. It's like, what, the sun is not the center of the universe? And after digging into the research, I really had only heard about hydroxyapatite maybe in one lecture in oral histology freshman year, looking at the embryonic stages of the tooth bud. After that, it's like, kind of never just came up again. And I was a little skeptical at first, but after diving into the body of research and science behind it, it's been used in several of the Asian countries for many decades as a remineralizing agent. And it just wasn't something that was ever discussed. And look, we're not against fluoride. Fluoride works, but we've decided to move in a different direction, kind of like amalgam fillings works, but most people aren't really placing amalgam fillings anymore. And we wanted to avoid some of the deleterious potential health consequences that people have when they ingest too much fluoride and looking at fluorosis, and it's a very reactive molecule, potential effects on the thyroid, and skeletal fluorosis, and you really don't have any of those consequences with hydroxyapatite. So I really needed to educate myself because some of this stuff just wasn't common knowledge. It wasn't really spoken about. So it feels great to be able to introduce a line that both has efficacy and safety. And again, we applaud some of our predecessors that came before us that had the desire to remove fluoride from their products. But if you're not using some kind of remineralizing agent like a hydroxyapatite, you kind of may as well just be brushing with water. I mean, you're just mechanically removing debris, which is great. I applaud that. But without a remineralizer, you're not getting that added benefit.
I see. So now that you have working as a prosthodontist and also running your company and having products there, how do you split your time between that business and then you're working as a dentist?
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a labor of love. I practice Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. So a full course or a patient load during the week. I don't work Fridays, which is great because that's usually my time for conferences and CE, big CE junkie, and really just trying to maintain with what the latest and most current research is out there. And Friday is also my creative day for doing videos for the company and just looking at scientific papers and really just making sure that we're steering the company in the right direction. And so that's usually how I split my time. I really love doing these podcasts and outreach and interviews, and we do a lot of IG Lives just to help kind of connect like-minded individuals and get the message out that there are alternatives and just cleaner products that are kind of gaining traction in this space, as you can see by a lot of the new entrants and companies that have kind of piggybacked off us. So it's flattering to see more and more people getting the word out. But split my time Monday through Thursday doing clinical dentistry, and usually Fridays for my Risewell pursuits.
And do you work in like a group practice down there? Are you a practice owner, an associate?
So I'm a single practice owner right now. I had a partner for 4 years. He was like my second dad, real sweet old guy. We connected at a study club about 5 years ago now. And, for all the folks that are graduating or soon to be entering the market, a lot of the great opportunities go through networking. Just like anything in life, it's kind of who you know. And after the military, I was kind of naive as to what I was going to do. I thought I was going to do a startup. I was working with this consulting company. We had the location all picked out. Then I'm kind of thinking to myself and talking to my consultant. They were nice people, but it just wasn't a good fit ultimately. I'm like, so how do I support myself day one when I fell in love with the idea of a beautiful, well-designed, brand new office, and you open the door day one, you have 0 patients. Like, oh, you just go work part-time somewhere else. And I was already in my late 30s, and that kind of a grind wasn't really in the cards for me at that point. Maybe if I was 22 again, I could have hacked that. But in a competitive market like South Florida, all my buddies were telling me just find an old person who wants to retire and sell their book of business. And I was going to all the study clubs, so I was working for corporate, and nothing against them, but that just wasn't the long-term vision I had for the kind of dentistry I wanted to do. And so I was just hustling at every single study club in the community, just introducing myself, getting my name out there, and finally met a great guy who was the right age and was actually interested in selling and bringing a partner on. Because a lot of times you'll meet people and we're like, oh yeah, I want someone, but they're too young. Like they have no intention of selling, and then they kind of leave you on, and you waste 3 or 4 years being an associate with no possibility of ownership. And so really making sure demographically you find that person who is in retirement age and trying to get stuff in writing. And we really had a great relationship. We were partners for 4 years. He retired last year and, bought out the rest of the practice and currently looking for someone. So that was kind of my journey.
And why prosthodontics? I'm curious about that too.
I love to torture myself. It was a kind of labor of love here. So I did a GPR. My first year in the Navy, I did a GPR. I thought I was going to do perio, but I had a great mentor in Pros, and she really convinced me of, I guess kind of my skill set, personality, demeanor, and some of the opportunities you can do. And I really enjoy the cosmetic and aesthetic aspects of dentistry, and surgery, not so much. So fast forward, ended up doing a residency in prosthodontics, and really just gravitated towards understanding and gaining the skill set to do foam mouth rehabilitations, understanding the materials, and really being able to back up the decisions I make and have confidence just offering larger and more comprehensive type cases.
Was the prosthodontics residency through your military as well, or was that way after the fact?
Yeah, the military has their own schools. The Navy has their schools in DC for endo, perio, surgery, pros, and they technically do train pediatric dentists and orthodontists, but not as much because there aren't. It's just a smaller patient population. But they do have them. But they're out service trained at civilian schools. But I trained at Walter Reed in DC.
Gotcha. So what's the best way for people if they want to know more about Risewell, they want to follow what you guys are doing, they want to see what you're up to, what's the best way for them to stay in touch?
Check us out at Risewell Co at Instagram, and I'm at Instagram as well, Dr. Derek Gatta, and check out our website. We have monthly newsletters and informative videos, and we're usually doing some kind of segment every month and just having conversations with our like-minded dentists in the community and helping to just grow the audience and get the message out there. But those are the best places to find us.
Perfect. So before we wrap up, I'd like to give people a chance for just a take-home words of wisdom message, if you have any, for it's mostly young dentists and dental students listening in.
Well, I really applaud you for what you're doing. I mean, you have a great service, and I checked out some of your episodes, and it's really wonderful to have these formats and tools to, again, just communicate at a bigger scale for all the young folks out there. And I remember those days vividly. It's stressful. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Dentistry is much better once you're out of school. So once you get through your boards, get your license, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So stay positive. Continue to invest in your relationships with your faculty, your friends, your colleagues, your upperclassmen, everybody, because you never know where that opportunity is going to come from. And also be very clear on your goals. I think it's so easy to get sidetracked 5 years into your career, like you're on this journey and path, like, oh man, like I don't even want to be working in potentially XYZ dental practice. I want to be an owner, or I want to be working in like a high volume practice or low volume practice. Be crystal clear on your goal and what you need to do to get there, to achieve that. And that is advice that resonated with me from some older mentors, to try and minimize the amount of time you spend spinning your wheels. So just be crystal clear on your goals and find mentors to help you get there.
Awesome. I love that. That should leave people very motivated and excited to check out more of what you're doing. So thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.